Are you thankful? Yes? Some of you? Good. There is so much to be thankful for. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm thankful for Yes to Love and their wonderful music. Thank you for being here and for being such an integral part of our services. So my question today is, do you have a grateful heart?
Yes.
Think about that. A grateful heart is the foundation that leads to a consciousness of prosperity. Our talk for the overall theme for the month has been financial health and prosperity. So being grateful leads us to that consciousness of prosperity. It's all in where we're going to focus our mind. Eric Butterworth, in his book Spiritual Economics, says some persons realizing the importance of a grateful heart, so we would realize that, right? Begin looking for things for which to give thanks. However, they mistakenly start with a perspective of inadequacy, and thus they simply become more conscious of limitations. So we can have a grateful heart, but if we're grateful that we have this, but know that there is, or think we know that there's limitation, all we're going to see is more limitation. When we open our hearts fully to recognize that we are one with Spirit, with God, we are one with the infinite, the eternal source of all, that means we are also infinite. We are also abundant, unlimited. And so when we come from that consciousness, we know anything we want can come to us. We just need to welcome it, to reveal it in our lives, because Spirit has already made the gift. The gift of everything we could ever ask for is there. It's waiting on our consciousness to open up to it. Not to see the limitation, but to see the possibility. And possibilities are endless. Later, Eric goes on in his book to say, you do not need something to be grateful for. I thought that was interesting. You don't need something to be grateful for. You need only the desire to feel grateful. Well, we can all muster up that desire to feel grateful if we really work on it. Well, he says, when you feel grateful, you become great and eventually attract great things. This is Plato's law. When we feel grateful, we attract great things and eventually become great ourselves. The real challenge for some of us is to stay in that attitude of gratitude, to recognize that we have blessings in our life each and every day, even those days that you don't quite feel so good. There are still blessings there. So my challenge for you, we're getting this early. Don't worry, I have more challenges for you at the end. My challenge for you is to keep a gratitude journal. And for the next 30 days, write down 3 things. You could do this at the end of the day before you go to bed. Write down 3 things that you're grateful for in your gratitude journal. Now, if nighttime doesn't work for you, then do it in the morning when you first get up. If you want to be a real overachiever, do it in the morning and do it in the evening. Because both of those will really bookend your day with gratitude, which will open you up to so much more. Now, here's another challenge. For this first 30 days of keeping your gratitude journal, don't repeat the same thing. Ooh, now all of a sudden, you get to really expand your mind. And if you really concentrate on it, I know you can do it, and you won't be repeating, because there's a lot of things to be grateful for in life. The law, which is mind in action. We talk about law, the law of this, the law of that. I'm talking about the law of gratitude today. So the law is our mind in action. So the law of gratitude is that when we're grateful for everything that shows up in our lives, we will have more of what we desire. When we're grateful for everything that shows up in our lives. Some things show up and I bet you're not so grateful for them. That's a challenge. We get to be grateful, even if it doesn't feel good, because there's a blessing there for us. Melody Beatty says, gratitude unlocks the fullness of life. It turns what we have into enough. It turns denial into acceptance, chaos into order, confusion to clarity. It can turn a meal into a feast, a house into a home, a stranger into a friend. Are you willing to look at life this way? To be grateful so that you can unlock these treasures for yourself? It's our job in life, I believe, to find ways to be grateful for everything that shows up in life. In the Bible, it says, in all things give thanks. It doesn't say just in the things that feel good, just in the things that you like, just in the things that excite you. It says in all things give thanks. Because as we give thanks, even if we don't like it, something good is going to come from this. We're going to recognize a blessing in whatever it is. I have been here, and I have had people tell me, I lost my job. Boo-hoo, poor me. We sit on the little pity pot and say, nobody loves me, everybody hates me, guess I'll eat some worms. Yes. But when we get past that, we find out that losing that job is the best thing that ever happened to us. Because that opens us to so much more. Because what did we say earlier? We are made in the likeness and image of the divine, the one power, one presence, God, Spirit, the universe. And that nature is our nature, and that is unlimited. So we're moving on to something better. When we leave that job, when we leave that relationship, when we leave whatever it is, we free ourselves to something even better. The key is being grateful. Because when we're grateful, we open ourselves up to something better. If we see the lack, the limitation, nobody's ever going to love me again. I'm never going to have another relationship. I'm never going to find a job as good as that one. Well, what do you think your consciousness is going to create? Just what you're thinking. And it's limited, right? So be grateful. Because in that gratitude, you're opening yourself up to so much more. Be grateful in all things and give thanks. Thornton Wilder said, what's he say? He says, we can only be said to be alive in these moments when our hearts are conscious of our treasures. So, is your heart conscious of your treasures? Are you really aware of the treasures that you have in your life? Ernest Holmes, our founder, said, there must be a conscious belief on the part of those seeking to demonstrate this principle. And the principle I'm talking about today is prosperity. So there must be a conscious belief on the part of those seeking to demonstrate this principle that their faith and thought are but the avenues through which the law expresses itself to them. So as we're thinking here, that's what's going to express in our lives. If we're grateful and we're looking for good and more good in our lives, that's what we're going to see. If we're not grateful, the ungrateful one, then all we're going to see is limitation and lack. Where do you want to live? I think it's going to be much better to live in the gratitude. and to draw to ourselves things that are good. Reverend Norm Bouchard wrote a book called 29 Questions for an Ordinary Life. He says, gratefulness is an act and conscious awareness of blessings and abundance in our lives. Gratefulness is a learned skill and an attitude that, once practiced, comes with ease and settles into your heart. Will you allow that gratitude to come with ease and settle into your heart? And then see everything with the eyes of gratefulness. He says some call this the law of gratitude. Reverend Norm says, it's a funny thing to notice, but once you develop a grateful attitude, gratitude seems to return to you abundantly through more gifts, notes, and prosperity. So what do you open yourself to? What is your consciousness here? Do you say thank you when you find yourself in a situation that's not fun, that seems very limited, that seems bad? We'll call it that. Can you still find something to be grateful for? So I want to share with you a story. And this is a story that was in the San Francisco Chronicle, the front page, December 14, 2005. It illustrated in a clear way the transformative power of gratitude. A female humpback whale became entangled in a spider web of crab traps and lines. She was weighted down by hundreds of pounds of traps that caused her to struggle to stay afloat. She also had hundreds of yards of line rope wrapped around her body, her tail, her torso, even a line tugging in her mouth. A fisherman spotted her outside the Golden Gate Bridge and radioed for an environmental group to come and help. Within a few hours, the rescue team arrived. They determined that she was so bad off that the only way to save her was to dive in and untangle her. But this was a very dangerous feat. One slap of her tail could kill a rescuer. They worked for hours with curved knives to free her, cutting the lines, cutting the ropes, removing the traps. She never made one aggressive move toward any of them. She did nothing that would have put the rescue workers in danger. And in fact, the diver who cut the rope from her mouth said her eye followed him all the time he was working. And he could sense gratitude from the eye of this whale. Eventually, she was freed. But what she did when she was free was not what they were expecting. For they expected her to go off into the open ocean and get away from everything. Instead, they said she swam in circles that seemed like circles of gratitude. And then she came up to each one of the divers individually, and she nudged the diver as if to say thank you, and went to the next one, thank you. And she said thank you to every one of the divers before she swam off into the open ocean. When we have people help us, do we go back and say thank you? Or do we run from that situation as fast as we can? It's nice to be able to take time to say thank you for people that help us. And we do have people that help us in our lives. And sometimes we get to be the ones that are doing the help. Another story. I was out to dinner one night. I had a wonderful waitress. You know, it's a pleasant evening when you can have a good waitress that is very attentive but not overbearing, that's there to fill the water glass when it needs to be, but never is intruding on the conversation or what's going on. This lady was so great. And I was impressed with how well she did at managing the table. And so at the end of the meal, I asked her if I could speak to the manager. She did raise her eyebrows a little bit and said, "Is everything okay?" I'm like, "Oh, yes, yes." So she sent the manager over, and the The manager, I could tell, was a little on edge. And I told him, I just want to say what a wonderful waitress you have. This was such a pleasant experience tonight, and I want you to know that she did an outstanding job with us. And thank you. Thank you for having her as an employee. The manager was so taken aback that he stumbled over himself for a little bit and said, thank you, thank you. You know, it's so rare that anybody would say thank you or tell me a compliment on our employees. And they all work really hard. We work as a team and we really try to give people the best service we can. Thank you for noticing. As the evening went on, we were ready to leave and I didn't have the check. And so I called the waitress over and I asked her if we could have our check. She said, oh, honey, the manager was so pleased that you gave us a compliment. Thank you. The dinner is on us tonight. You never know what gratitude is going to get you. And I'll take that. So be grateful. It has so many benefits in our lives. Now, some of you might think that you have trouble finding anything to be grateful for. And that's because you listen to that CNN, constant negative news. You hear about the pollution in our world, climate change that's going on, terrorism, wars, hunger, poverty, discrimination around age, race, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, and all of these negative conditions are human-caused and human-driven. And because they're human-caused and human-driven means that we have the chance and the opportunity to change them. It's within our power to change those things because we begin by changing our attitude. Coming together to see a better way, a more powerful practice of gratitude so that we can heal the world. We heal it from, our bodies heal from the inside out, and we heal from ourselves out to others. I want to share one more story with you. This was a story about Maya Angelou. She says, if you're always trying to be normal, you'll never know how amazing you can be. Do you know that you're amazing? This author writes, one day, many years ago, I was sitting in my bathroom with the door closed, the toilet lid down, and boo-hooing on the phone so uncontrollably and incoherent. Stop it! Stop it right now! My friend Maya Angelou said. But you don't understand, I sobbed. I do understand, she told me. I want to hear you say it, and I want to hear you say it out loud. Say thank you. Tentatively, I said thank you. I repeated it, thank you. But what am I saying thank you for? I asked. Maya said, you're saying thank you because your faith is so strong that you don't doubt that whenever you have a problem, you'll get through it. You're saying thank you because you know that even in the eye of the storm, there is a way through and a rainbow that God puts there for you. You're saying thank you because you know that there's no problem that's been created to compare to the center of your being, the source, God, who is in you. So say thank you. And she did. She said, I still do say thank you every day. She said, I keep a gratitude journal. I think somebody told you about doing that. I keep a gratitude journal daily, and I list 5 things that I'm grateful for. My list includes small pleasures. The feel of Kentucky bluegrass under my feet, like a damp silk. Walks in the woods with all 9 of my dogs. My Cocker Spaniel, Sophie, trying to keep up. I give thanks for reading a good book and knowing another one is waiting for me. My thank you list includes too many things to take for granted. An okay mammogram, financial security, a friend who loves me, 25 years on the same great job, staying centered. She said, I won't kid you. Having money for all the things I want is a blessing. But as I look back over my journals, 99% of what brought me real joy was not something that money could buy. A lot of my gratitude had to do with food. Do you know who this author is? Yes. It's easy to be grateful all the time. It's not easy to be grateful all the time. But when you least feel grateful, it's the time you most need to express gratitude, to have that grateful perspective. When you learn to say thank you, you see the world in a new way. And as Meister Eckhart said so eloquently, if the only prayer you ever said in life was thank you, God, it would be sufficient. Oprah Winfrey. So refuse to be attached to the negative news. Vision your future and act from that vision. Look at what it is that you want. On page 187 of The Science of Mind, Ernest says, judge not according but to appearance. When we look at the appearance of the negative news, it looks like there's nothing to be grateful for. But there is plenty to be grateful for. We must hold fast to the realization that we are one with Spirit, one with God, and in that oneness, in that unity, we have unlimited possibilities. And we can know that the gratitude that starts within our hearts this Thanksgiving can move out into action, into the world. And it can change the world. We are one with Spirit. We are powerful, creative, spiritual beings. In Living the Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes says, if we're willing to start where we are today, creating a little bigger, a little broader, a little better mental equivalent than we had yesterday, we shall progressively advance. And then he says, no matter how much good we experience today, we should expect more tomorrow. Are you expecting more good tomorrow? Expectancy always speeds progress, Ernest says. Anticipation of the better yet to come helps dissolve the overload of burdens which we now carry with us. So look for the gratitude this Thanksgiving. Look for things to be grateful for. Start your gratitude journal and make your life a vibration that will change all of those around you. Let us pray. I know there's one power, one presence. It's in me, as me, through me, and all around me. There is not a spot that God is not. And in this oneness, this unity with this power and presence, the divine, that power greater than me, I know that I am called to be so much more. To be unlimited in my life, as each one of us is called to be unlimited in our lives. To create that power, to create that love, that joy, that energy in life that we desire. And by creating all that we can through our lives, we create a better world. We create more peace, more harmony. And as we move out into the marketplace this week, we go forth to share our love, our peace, our centeredness with a world that needs all we can do. We bless ourselves and we bless our lives. We know that they are abundant and prosperous, and we are grateful. I release my word into the universe that always says yes, and together we say,
And so it is.